First in the spotlight tonight is Tina Modotti, a writer from London. His subject, champagne. Next, Graham Gowland, a solicitor from Middlesbrough, answering questions on the Manhattan Project. Lena Gazy is an administrator from Leeds, and her subject, the pioneering photographer Tina Modotti. And Mike Foden, a retired nurse from Newcastle upon Tyne, who'll be answering questions on The Prisoner. Hello and welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphrys. Tonight, as ever, 4 contenders will sit in the notorious black chair where they will answer 2 minutes of questions on their specialist subject and then 2.5 minutes on general knowledge. Tonight's winner will go through to the next round, of course, and maybe all the way to the final where they could win the coveted title of Mastermind champion. So let's get on with it and ask our first contender to join us, please. And your name is?
Tina Modotti.
And your occupation?
Writer.
And your chosen subject?
Champagne.
Champagne. In 2 minutes, here we go. What is the oldest existing champagne house? It was established in 1729, the year after Louis XV legalised the transport of wine in bottles.
Ruina.
Yes, in which abbey did the Benedictine monk Dom Perignon work as treasurer and cellar master for many years. He later became known as the father of champagne.
Hauvillers.
Yes. Which wine-producing district of Champagne within the Marne department contains the Grand Cru villages of Ambonnay, Verzenay and Bouzy?
Montagne de Reims.
Yes. What small and highly traditional house in Epernay has been managed by a member of the Jaeger family for 4 generations?
Mom.
Gratiot. What term literally meaning ladder of growths applies to the percentage scale classification system of communes or villages in the Champagne area introduced in 1911?
Échelle.
Yes, échelle de cru. In 1876, the House of Louis Roederer created an exclusive cuvée at the request of a Russian Tsar and presented it in a special bottle of clear crystal. Which Tsar?
Pass.
What major vine pest, thought to have come from the New World, affected most of France's wine-growing areas in the mid-19th century and attacked Champagne's vines from around 1890?
Phylloxera.
Yes. What is the maximum number of grams of residual sugar per litre of wine permitted in a champagne if it's to be classified as extra brut?
6.
Yes. Which house makes a cuvée named after Winston Churchill? He was a great fan of their champagne and even named a racehorse after a member of the family.
Paul Roger.
Yes. Which winemaker produces a cuvée spéciale, Les Châtignons, from old vines in the village of Les Minières-sur-Roger in the Côte des Blancs?
Pass.
What grape constitutes 60% or more of Veuve Clicquot's flagship champagne, La Grande Dame?
Chardonnay.
Pinot Noir. In 2009, which house launched champagne with the experimental Maestro closure, a crown cap with a lever for easier opening? The cap was deemed illegal and the bottles had to be withdrawn.
Bollinger.
Duval-Leroy. A Methuselah is an extra-large bottle equivalent to how many standard 75-centilitre bottles?
32.
8. Following disturbances in 1911, which département started its finish acquired the right to produce sparkling wine as Champagne Deuxième Zone? The term was later repealed.
Aube.
Aube is correct. You had 2 passes. The winemaker who produced that cuvée spéciale was Rodolfo Pierre Peters. And in 1876, the House of Louis Roederer created that special cuvée for Alexander II. So those 2 passes in, you have 8 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Graham Gowland.
Your occupation?
Solicitor.
And your specialist subject?
The Manhattan Project.
The Manhattan Project, in 2 minutes, starting now. The Manhattan Project produced the first atomic bombs during the Second World War. A letter was given to Franklin D. Roosevelt in October 1939, signed by Einstein, stating that it was possible that a nuclear bomb could be built. Which economist delivered it?
Alexander Sachs.
Yes, in September 1942, the Deputy Chief of Construction of the Army Corps of Engineers, who'd supervised the building of the Pentagon, was put in charge of the Manhattan Project. What was his name?
Leslie Groves.
Yep. Which unit was founded in 1943 to gather intelligence of scientific developments in Italy and Germany, particularly in atomic research? Its name came from the Greek for grove.
Alsos.
Yes, which physicist who collaborated with Enrico Fermi to create the first man-made nuclear chain reaction in December 42 said the day would go down as a black day in the history of mankind?
Leo Szilard.
Yes, the Los Alamos laboratory became the site for the final processing, assembly and testing of the atomic bomb. Which major in the Manhattan Engineer District was given the task of finding a suitable site for the laboratory?
Dudley.
Yes. Following the first test of the atomic bomb, known as the Trinity test, the director of the Los Alamos laboratory said he recalled the phrase from Hindu scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." What was his name?
Robert Oppenheimer.
Yes. Which Massachusetts construction engineering company did Colonel James C. Marshall select as the principal contractor for the atomic bomb project in 1942?
Stone and Webster.
Yes, which naval officer was appointed in 43 to direct the expanded Ordnance Division? His responsibilities included the assembly and arming of the Little Boy uranium bomb.
William Parsons.
Yes, in which city was an agreement signed in August 43 by Winston Churchill and Franklin D. Roosevelt that renewed the partnership between America and Britain for developing the atomic bomb?
Quebec.
Yes, the Trinity test took place in July 1945 at the Alamogordo bombing range in the New Mexico desert. What was the name of the hill 20 miles from ground zero that was used as an observation point?
Pass.
Which future Nobel Prize-winning physicist was in the observation plane that accompanied the B-29 Enola Gay and measured the explosive yield of Little Boy when it was dropped and detonated over Hiroshima?
William Morrison.
No, it was Luis Alvarez. And your pass, the name of that hill 20 miles from ground zero used as an observation point was Compania or Compania. You have, Graham, 9 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Lena Gazy.
Your occupation?
Administrator.
And your specialist subject?
Tina Modotti.
Tina Modotti. Here we go, 2 minutes. Tina Modotti was a photographer, actress and political activist who lived from 1896 to 1942. What was her full first name, which she shared with her mother?
Assunta.
Yes, when Modotti was young, her family moved from Italy to Austria, where they lived in Verlach, and which other town near Klagenfurt?
St. Ruprecht.
Yes, Modotti posed nude for murals on the walls of the Agricultural College in Chapingo. Which celebrated Mexican artist painted the murals with his two assistants?
Diego Rivera.
Correct. In 1923, Modotti moved to Mexico City with her married lover, a photographer whom she worked for, in return for photography lessons. Who was he?
Edward Weston.
Yes, what make of single-lens reflex camera did Modotti use from 1926 that enabled her to work without a tripod? She went on to use it for much of her career in photography.
A Graflex.
Yes. What's the title of the poem by Modotti that was published in the New York literary journal The Dial in May 23?
Pass.
One of her best-known photographs is of a typewriter belonging to a Cuban revolutionary who was a lover in the late 1920s. Who was he?
Julio Antonio Mella.
Yes, in the summer of 1926, Weston and Modotti travelled around Mexico taking photographs for a book on the country's art and folklore by the journalist Anita Brenner. What's the title of the book?
Idols Behind Altars.
Yes, what two symbolic items are resting on a Mexican sombrero in the iconic Modotti photograph that appeared on the front of the October 1928 edition of the radical American periodical New Masses?
A sickle and an ear of corn.
A hammer and sickle. In the silent film The Tiger's Coat, Modotti appears in her only leading role as a Mexican servant who pretends to be her Scottish mistress, Jean Ogilvy. What's the servant girl's name?
Carmen.
Maria. What was the name of the Italian communist, also known as Comandante Carlos, who had a strong influence on Modotti? He was accused by some of being involved in her death.
Vittorio Vidali.
Yes. What was the name of the hospital Modotti helped to administer when she first arrived in Spain during the Civil War?
The Hospital Obrero.
Correct. Modotti died suddenly in Mexico in 1942. What was the name of the architect, a former director of the Bauhaus, whose home she visited on the night she died?
Hans Meyer.
Yes. In 1928... started to finish, Modotti became a fundraiser for the Mexican Communists' Hands Off Nicaragua Committee. Who was the guerrilla leader of the resistance in Nicaragua, whom the committee supported?
Sandino.
Is correct. You had just one pass. The title of that poem by Modotti was Plenipotentiary. So that one pass, Lena, but you have 11 points. And our final contender, please. And your name is?
Mike Foden.
Your occupation?
Retired nurse.
And your specialist subject?
The prisoner.
The prisoner. in 2 minutes. In the 1960s television series The Prisoner, former secret agents abducted and imprisoned in a village where he is known only as Number 6. Which village in North Wales was used for most of the exterior shots in the series?
Portmeirion.
Yes, Number 6 makes many unsuccessful attempts to escape the village. What vehicle does he try to escape in at the end of the first episode, unaware that it's being controlled by Number 2?
Helicopter.
Yep. What's the name of the massive white balloon that acts as a security device in the village?
Rover.
Yep. The general is revealed to be a large computer which Number 6 destroys by asking it a question that he says cannot be answered. What is the question?
Why?
Yes. What title does Number 6 give to his multi-piece abstract sculpture that wins the village art competition? It's actually a boat.
Escape.
Yep. Number 6 is twice seen taking part in a martial art involving 2 trampolines and a pool of water. What's it called?
Kosho.
Yeah. What message is slowly revealed at the bottom of the glass when Number 6 drinks a pint of beer at his local pub in The Girl Who Was Death?
You have just been poisoned.
Yes, throughout the series, Number 6 is questioned about why he resigned from his job. What's the name of the interrogation technique that Number 2 uses for 7 days in Once Upon a Time?
Degree absolute.
Yes. What piece does Number 6 represent when he takes part in the human game of chess in the episode Checkmate?
Queen's Pawn.
Yep. In the chimes of Big Ben, Number 2 watches Number 6 put on an item of clothing and says he makes even that appear as a gesture of defiance. What's the item of clothing?
Jacket.
Dressing gown. In the final episode, what song does Number 48 sing that causes the members of the Assembly to jump from their seats and eventually join in?
Dem Bones.
Yeah, in his election campaign speech, Number 6 says many people have chosen to stay in the village and will eventually die there. What vegetable does he compare them to?
Cabbage.
Yeah. What building is Number 2 seen entering at the end of the final episode after escaping the village with the numbers 6 and 48?
Palace of Westminster.
Yeah, House of Parliament. In Hammer into Anvil, a birthday greeting to Number 6 from number 113 is broadcast, but Number 2 knows 2 reasons why the greeting is a fake. One is that it isn't Number 6's birthday. What's the other?
Pass.
What is the first question Number 2 asks Number 6 after he takes the speed learning course on European history since Napoleon?
In what year was the Treaty of Adrianople?
Exactly right. And you had that one pass. The other reason why that greeting was fake is that number 113 was dead. But, Mike, you have scored 13 points. All right, well, a good close first round. Let's have a look at all of the scores. 4th place, 8 points, Sidin Sunny. 3rd place, 9 points. Graham Gowland, 2nd place, 11 points. Lena Gazy, 1st place, 13 points. Mike Foden. So it is the general knowledge round now, and if there's a tie at the end of it, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if they are tied on passes as well, there has to be a tie break. So let's go on with it and ask Sidin to join us again, please. And you start this round with 8 points with your knowledge of champagne. Let's see how you do with your general knowledge, and it is 2.5 minutes this time. Here we go. Which king married his brother's widow in 1509? She was the first of his 6 wives.
Henry VIII.
Yep. Who starred opposite Paul Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969 and again in The Sting 4 years later?
Redford.
Yep. The name of which small, graceful antelope comes from the Arabic for wild goat?
Ibex.
Gazelle. The leaves of what African shrub, whose name translates as red bush, are used to make a popular herbal tea, although the shrub is unrelated to the camellias from which true teas are made?
Chamomile.
Rooibos. Which city in New Zealand is known as the City of Sails because of the large number of yachts generally seen in its harbours?
Auckland.
Yep. Which diplomat who was Spain's ambassador to the Soviet Union and Mongolia from 1977 to 80 was president of the International Olympic Committee from 1980 to 2001?
Haviland.
No, Samaran. In sociology, what letter is often used to denote the generation that roughly corresponds to people born in the 80s and 90s? They're also known as the millennials.
X.
Why? What equine nickname is used to describe the tops of ocean waves in particularly choppy weather?
Pass.
Which Conservative MP who upset the party hierarchy when she appeared on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here had previously accused David Cameron and George Osborne of being 2 arrogant posh boys?
Baroness Wasi.
Nadine Dorries. The Canadian province of Prince Edward Island is famous for the cultivation of a vegetable to which a museum is dedicated in the village of O'Leary. What is the vegetable?
Asparagus.
Potato. Who composed the music for the opera The Girl of the Golden West that was first performed in New York in 1910 with Arturo Toscanini conducting?
Gershwin.
Puccini. In which television sitcom did Martin Clunes and Neil Morrissey star as Gary and Tony, 2 adolescent-minded males who shared a South London flat?
Pass.
Which English footballer was filmed sleeping by the artist Sam Taylor Wood for a work commissioned by the National Portrait Gallery and exhibited in 2004?
Beckham.
Yep. Which modern form of communication is officially known as courriel in France?
Telephone.
Email. What Spanish name was given to the ruler of a South American people who was believed to cover his body with gold dust at certain festivals? His name came to be applied to his legendary kingdom abounding in gold and precious stones.
El Dorado.
Yes, Where the Lion Feeds, published in 1964 and featuring the twins Garrick and Sean Courtney, was the first novel by which writer who has set many of his books in Southern Africa?
Leon Urie.
Wilbur Smith. Which band had successive #1 albums with Parachutes in 2000, A Rush of Blood to the Head in 2002 and X and Y 2005?
Coldplay.
Yep. The birthday of which ancient Chinese philosopher whose teachings were the state ideology of China for centuries is celebrated in Southeast Asia on the 28th of September?
Confucius.
Is correct. 2 passes. That television series with Martin Clunes and Neil Morrissey was Men Behaving Badly. And this is one of those irritating ones when you think about it afterwards. The equine nickname to describe the top of ocean waves in choppy weather, white horses. I know, irritating, isn't it? Sit in, you have 15 points. And now Graham Gowland again, please. And you start out with 9 points with your knowledge of the Manhattan Project. 2.5 minutes to go, as I say, in this round. In Doctor Who, which of the Doctor's adversaries were created by Davros and come from the planet Skaro?
Daleks.
Yes, a crash is the collective name for which large animals?
Sorry, could you repeat the
A
question?
crash is the collective name for which large animals?
Rhinoceros?
Yes. What is the surname of the brothers George and Whedon, who wrote The Diary of a Nobody, a comic account of 15 months in the life of a clerk, Mr. Charles Pooter, in the late Victorian era?
Pass.
On the London Underground, the stations Angel, Elephant and Castle, Manor House, Royal Oak and Swiss Cottage are all named after what?
Pass.
Which was the only Eastern Bloc country not to boycott the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics? It finished second behind the United States with 20 gold medals.
East Germany?
Romania. What name is given to the 1918 general election, which coalitionist candidates were given a letter of endorsement signed by both Lloyd George and Bonar Law?
Pass.
Benjamin Britten's opera Gloriana was commissioned by the Royal Opera House to celebrate what event of 1953?
The coronation?
Yes, in Greek mythology, who was the goddess of witchcraft and sorcery? She was believed to haunt the earth at night accompanied by a pack of howling dogs.
Harpy?
Hecate. Red Spanish, Sugarloaf, Cayenne and Queen are varieties of what exotic fruit often sold sliced in cans?
Peach?
Pineapple. Which all-American action hero created by Tom Clancy has been played on screen by Alec Baldwin, Harrison Ford, Ben Affleck and, more recently, Chris Pine?
Pass.
Which Baltic republic abandoned its former currency, the lats, and became the 18th member of the Eurozone on the 1st of January 2014?
Kazakhstan?
Latvia. In anatomy, what name that comes from the Latin for an enclosure is given to the partition between the nostrils, or the membrane separating the ventricles of the heart?
Septum?
Yes. What was the surname of the twins Matt and Luke, who were 2 of the 3 members of the pop group Bros?
Goss?
Yep. Which American state, named after the wife of King Charles I, was founded in 1632 as a colony where Roman Catholics were free to practice their religion?
Virginia?
Maryland. What style of painting that flourished in the early 20th century in the works of artists such as Henri Matisse took its name from the French for wild beasts?
Pass.
The Dance of the Knights is a piece of music well known for its use in the BBC television series The Apprentice. Which ballet by Prokofiev does it come from?
Rite of Spring?
Romeo and Juliet. The goldfish belongs to which family of fish? A larger variety of it is a popular delicacy in Eastern Europe.
Carp?
Yep. Which pair of Yorkshire detectives made their first appearance in Reginald Hill's novel A Clubbable Woman in 1970?
Pass.
Well, I can tell you, because your time is up, it's DL and Pascoe. But you knew that, didn't you? And your other passes, Fauvism is the style of painting that I was after. Jack Ryan was that all-American action hero everybody seems to have played just about. The election in 1918 was the coupon election. And all those London Underground stations are named after pubs. And the surname of the brothers George and Whedon, who wrote The Diary of a Nobody, is Grossmith. You also have now 15 points. And now, Lena, again, please. And you start out, Lena, with 11 points, with your knowledge of Tina Modotti, about whom I suspect many of us had not heard. But anyway, 15 is the score to beat. 2.5 minutes starting now. What name is given to any sudden shaking of the ground caused by the passage of seismic waves through the Earth's rocks?
Earthquake.
Yes, which national heroine led the French forces to a decisive victory over the English at Orléans in 1429 during the 100 Years' War?
Jeanne d'Arc.
Yep, Joan of Arc. In children's literature, what's the name of the marmalade cat created by the British author and illustrator Kathleen Hale?
Pass.
What is the usual English name for the sugary confection known in France as barre à papa and in America as cotton candy?
Candy floss.
Correct. Which singing cowboy recorded the classic Oscar-winning theme tune to the 1952 film High Noon?
Pass.
What name is given to the vast entrance room at London's Tate Modern? It was a central element of the building before its conversion from a power station to a gallery.
The engine room.
The Turbine Hall. Which Italian explorer, who was the first European to sail into New York Harbour in 1524, gives his name to the suspension bridge crossing the Narrows between Brooklyn and Staten Island?
Vasco da Gama.
Verrazano. Which radio serial moved into the 6:45 p.m. slot on the Light programme in 1951 when Dick Barton's Special Agent ended?
The Archers.
Yes, who published the first edition of his Peerage of England, Scotland and Ireland in 1802? A rival publication by John Burke appeared in 1826.
Pass.
Which composer's Ninth Symphony, first performed in 1824, is known as the Chorale?
Beethoven.
Yep. In swimming, what term is used for a relay or individual race where the 4 different strokes are used, with each stroke used for a quarter of the distance?
Freestyle.
Medley. A Webster is an archaic term for a person employed or engaged in what occupation?
Pass.
A beautiful young spaniel and a scruffy mongrel who fall in love with the title characters in which 1955 Disney animated film?
Pass.
In which Shakespeare play does Falstaff send identical love letters to Mistress Ford and Mistress Page, who proceed to plot his downfall?
The Merry Wives of Winter.
Yes, what common name is given to cacti of the genus Opuntia because of the shape of the fruit that is edible in some species?
Prickly pear.
Yes, which television variety show, whose compeers included Tommy Trinder and Bruce Forsyth, featured the audience participation game Beat the Clock?
Pass.
In Greek mythology, which god of flocks and shepherds, famous for his pipes, was generally represented as having the horns, legs and ears of a goat?
Syrinx.
Pan. Which former Prime Minister died on a sea voyage to South America in November 1937?
Pass.
Which vegetable was described by Mark Twain as nothing but cabbage with a college education?
Broccoli.
Cauliflower. In 1938, the American surgeon Robert E. Gross became one of the first people to perform a major surgical procedure on what organ of the human body?
The heart.
Yes, the heart. And you had 7 passes. Ramsay MacDonald was the former Prime Minister who died on that sea voyage. Sunday night at the London Palladium was the variety show, and you kicked up with this one. Beautiful dog, scruffy mongrel, lady and the tram.
Yes.
Yes, you knew it, of course. Webster was the archaic term for somebody who weaves.
Weaver, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Debrett published the first edition of the Peerage of England and so on. Tex Ritter was the singing cowboy. And the name of the marmalade cat was Orlando. You have 19 points. And finally, Mike again, please. And, Mike, you start out with 13 points with your knowledge of the prisoner. 2.5 minutes of general knowledge. The score to beat is 19. Let's see how you do. Here we go. Players of which sport were described by Kipling as flannelled fools at the wicket in his poem The Islanders?
Cricket.
Yep. On what subject did Henry Gray first publish a book in 1858 that is still a standard text for medical students?
Anatomy.
Yes. What was the name of the computer that beat the world chess champion Garry Kasparov in the first of a series of 6 matches in 1996? It beat him over the whole 6 matches in a rematch the following year.
Big Blue.
No, Deep Blue. The Kiss, painted in 1907 and widely reproduced since, is one of the best-known works by an Austrian artist, notable for his distinctive use of richly decorated patterns. Who was he?
Klimt.
Yep. What name is given to the straits designated North and Little that separate the islands of the Outer Hebrides from mainland Scotland and Skye?
Minch.
Yep, The Minches. Which novel by Daphne du Maurier is narrated by the second wife of Maxime de Winter?
Rebecca.
Yep. What resinous substance made from the secretions of the insect Lacifera lacca is used in an alcohol solution as a varnish for priming and finishing furniture and floors?
Pass.
Which ancient people whose civilization reached its height in the 6th century BC inhabited the part of Italy between the Tiber and the Arno?
Goths.
Etruscans. What word meaning renown or prestige comes directly from the Greek for fame or glory?
Pass.
What Italian name is given to a piquant sauce including capers and parsley, traditionally served as an accompaniment to boiled meats or bollito misto?
Pass.
Which work by Handel was written to accompany the display in Green Park in 1749 to celebrate the signing of the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle?
What's music?
Music for the Royal Fireworks. Which veteran actress received her 6th Emmy nomination in 2013 for playing Lady Olenna Tyrell in Game of Thrones? Her first 2 nominations were for her role in The Avengers.
Diana Rigg.
Yes, in a story in the Dime Detective magazine in 1938, which American crime novelist first used the phrase private eye for a private detective?
Nicky Spillane.
Raymond Chandler. In Sir Thomas Malory's account of the Arthurian legends, what name meaning cut steel is given to King Arthur's sword?
Excalibur.
Yes, Lake Volta, one of the world's largest man-made lakes, is found in which West African country? Its dams hydroelectric plant supplies most of the country's electricity needs.
Lesotho.
Ghana. Which political leader is the subject of a 2012 biography by Masha Gessen entitled The Man Without a Face?
Obama.
Putin, whose novel The Virgin Soldiers and its sequels Onward Virgin Soldiers and Stand Up Virgin Soldiers were based on his national service experiences in the British Army?
Leslie Thomas.
Leslie Thomas is correct. Just got in there before the buzzer. You have 3 passes. That piquant sauce, the Italian name for it is salsa verde. Kudos is the word in Greek meaning renown or prestige. And shellac is that resinous substance. So 3 passes altogether, but you have 21 points. We have a clear winner. Let's have a look at all the scores. In joint 3rd place, 15 points apiece, Sidin Sunny and Graham Gowland. 2nd place, 19 points, Lena Gazy. 1st place, 21 points, Mike Foden. Which means that Mike is tonight's winner. Of course, he goes through to the semi-finals. Congratulations to him. Now, if you would like to be a contender yourself on the next series, do go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind, and you can also follow us on Twitter @MastermindQuiz. And do join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.